Hey guys, I'm Voren, and in today's video I will show you how I made the custom window for GoZen, or video editor which we are making inside of Godot. The normal window looks a little bit too plain, so I wanted to give it a little bit more style and functionality. So this is a default window that Godot gives you. It's probably good enough for games, but when you want to make something that looks nice, an application that looks nice, having a custom window can make a nice difference. So we went from this to this. In this video I'll be going over the top bar, how I made the top bar, how I make certain that the content falls into the contents window and does not cover the top bar or the status bar, and I'll also go over the status bar. And just disclaimer, I won't be talking about how to make a real window, I'll be talking about how to make this window. I'll be going over the nodes I use, the code I use, and yeah, just some insight on why I made the window look the way it does. Inside of GoZen, the video editor that I'm making, we are making, in Godot, with Godot. Okay, let's start! Before we get back to the video, I would like to thank my sponsors on both Ko-fi and GitHub. Your help and support is greatly appreciated, thank you very much. If you would also like to have your name in this list, head over to my Ko-fi page. Link is in the description. Thank you. Okay, and we're behind our PC, so let's open up a new Godot project. Let's save this scene as main window. Let's also call this main window. So we will need two things: the layout and the handles, because the moment that we go borderless, we won't be able to resize the window. Right now, select current. If you press it, minimize it, we see this border and we can change the size. However, we go to project settings under the window and select borderless, which we will need. On my system I'm using tiling manager, so this title bar does not appear on my system, but trust me, it's there. When we go into borderless mode, that's gone together with the borders. So right now you don't see the borders and you cannot drag it anymore, so you have to implement that functionality on your own. And let's go back to the project settings because we still need to do a couple of things. So borderless, the main window from GoZen, the one that I showed you, the one that we are trying to replicate, the background is black. That's not because I put a background, that's because I changed the clear color. The clear color is what's being shown to you if there are no 3D objects or 2D objects in front of the camera. So let's change this to completely black because we're trying to replicate the main window of GoZen. So now we have our black color. Then let's add some nodes. So we need a VBox container. Let's call this layout. Let's also maximize this. In here we will need a panel container for the top bar. We will also need a panel container for the status bar. The status bar in GoZen right now does not really have any use case except for showing the version, so I won't really go in too much detail in this video, but status bar. And then we add a control node and we call it content. Something I did was make this a unique name, so you can easily add content to the content part, to the content portion. We also extend this, so now top bar, content, status bar. We'll go over these soon, but first let's enable the dragging. So there are a couple of things that we need to do with the layout as well. Right now, changing the position from the window, it's not possible. We don't have a drag on the top bar and drag it around. We don't have that yet. That's also something we have to implement ourselves. Same like the resizing. So we need to move the window, resize the window, have a top bar, and in the top bar we need to implement our own closing, maximizing and minimizing buttons. Okay, so let's first add the handles. So we add another control node, we duplicate that one inside, 1, 2. So we have the main control node, let's call this handles. The next one we call right, bottom, and then corner. Now it is important that the corner is on the bottom, because that way the corner will be on top, if that makes sense. Because right now, if I would click in this corner to start dragging things around, I will have the corner. So select all of these, go into the inspector, layout, and change the minimum size to 5 pixels. I found this to be the better size. And also localization transform. Go here and change it as well to 5 pixels. So the right sides, we put on the right sides. And let's first change the handles to full screen. Also in handles input, no, mouse, it says stop right now. We should put this on pause or ignore, because else you won't be able to press any of the buttons of the top bar or inside of content, because again, handles is on top of everything. It will get in the way. So we have right, bottom, corner, bottom. Let's put this one on the bottom. And the corner, let's put that one in the corner. And now we need to add the GUI input events. Those will tell if you're holding down the mouse button and dragging it along. So go to right, GUI input events. Oh, we don't have a script yet. Let's first add a script to main window, or we just add it to handles itself. So code handles. Okay. So here we have the GUI inputs. We put it on the handles. We have the bottom GUI inputs. Okay, and then we have the corner as well. And we want to create a new function called, I think I just called this GUI input handling. This will require events, so input event, or an input mouse, an input event mouse button. Yeah, just an input event mouse. But we will also need the node, and this needs to be a control, because we need to pass each separate node of which one is being dragged. Okay. Void, let's put a pass here. Right now we need to do the same thing for on right GUI input, bottom GUI input, and corner GUI input. We first need to make certain that the event is an input mouse, input event mouse, input event mouse button. So we should also change this. Okay, so if that's correct, then GUI input handling, we pass in the event and we pass in the node. So this for the right, oops. So right. We do the same for the other ones, but we change the right to respectable one. So bottom. And this one is corner. Okay. So in the GUI input handling, we will need to make certain that it only resizes the window when there's actually dragging going on and not just clicking. And that's what we'll do now. So we need to create a new variable called resizing. And this will be a bool, and the standard value will be false. We say that's bool here, so let's just do this. So if event button index is the same as 1, then we check if resizing is on. Resizing. So if you're not resizing, we'll need to change the node, because we'll probably be starting to drag. So we should also have a for resize. Node, this will be a control and will be by default empty. So resize node is the node that's being passed into this function. Let's also hide these to make everything a little bit easier to overlook. And then also we need to change the resizing boolean to event.isPressed. So only when this mouse button is being pressed, resizing will be true. And to make everything go smooth, we'll need to add the function process. And then if resizing, because we only want things to happen when we're actually resizing. And to make the code a little bit shorter, I will add a current scene is get, or we just call this scene get. Let's not type in Japanese. Get 3 current scene. You don't need to do this, just make code look a little bit cleaner, a little bit shorter. So if resize node is in an array of bottom or corner, then we'll need to resize it in a certain direction. But we also have if resize node, let's put a pause here because else we'll have the annoying error message. If resize node in right or corner, then it will also need to do things. Corner is in there 2 times because corner will basically, like, you're changing the bottom and the right sides. So over here we need to get the window. We need to have the Y size. Over here we need to get the X size, and this is giving an error because I forgot the column. So the Y of the window should be scene.get global, whoopsie, I cannot type today, get global mouse position dot Y, and this will give a flow, but we need an int. So I think this should work, and let's do the same thing for this one. Normally resizing should work now, so let's do it like this. Does not work yet. That's because I did not specify that I need the Y of the size. So this will work now. Normally, let's cross fingers. Okay. So the bottom should also work normally. If I can grab the bottom, yes. And the corner, yes. So we can resize the window. The mouse, that's still an issue, so let's change the mouse cursor when we are on those areas. So mouse needs to stop, and a vertical resize, I think. So let's quickly check if that's correct. Nope. So horizontal resize. The bottom needs to be the vertical resize. Vertical resize, and the corner needs to be a mouse arrow. Main diagonal resize, I think. Yes, okay. So now when you hover over the correct spots, you will see the cursor indicating that you can resize the window, which is helpful. Okay. So handling is done. So, well, the handles are done. We have our resize handles now. Next up, let's take a little bit of time to do the status bar. I won't go into too much detail about how I do this. Basically, team override, add a panel, and I'll just leave it at the color gray. Something I will do is put the minimum size on 18 in heights. Probably a little bit too big, but that's also because I have not changed the window property, so let's first do that. I like to put these on the default, so when you minimize the window, like unmaximize the window, it will have this size, the window width overrides. But whilst working in the editor, I like to have a 1080p view because that gives more of a real representation of how it will actually look like. This also requires us to change these again, main window, and set the current ratio up. So we have our status bar. Something I did in the status bar was add an H-box. I will set alignment on the end, add a label. I don't like it when it says container because that makes this look too messy. And let's just call this version label, and let's say version 0.0.1. Okay. I won't do too much details about this. Like, you can do whatever you want in the status bar, if you even need a status bar. In the Zen mode of GoZen, GoZen has a minimal UI version as well. If you press Ctrl Z, then you go into Zen mode of the video editor, and all UI that you don't need will be hidden, such as the status bar. That's the status bar done. Let's go over to the top bar, which will require a little bit more work because we will have to add the buttons with the functionality to close, maximize, minimize. But we will also need to be able to drag the window, which is another big annoying thing to accomplish. So for the top bar, I want the top bar to be a little bit bigger, so let's go for 20 pixels. For style, let's go for a style box flat again. Let's make it a little bit darker. Like I won't go into like the details like with here with the real GoZen example. But coloring all up to you. I just like to make the background completely black because it's just easier to look at. Okay, so we have our top bar. Inside of here we add an 8 box. Again, I like to remove the container out of the name. And we will also add a label. We will add the label not inside of the 8 box, but on the panel container itself. This way we can extend it completely. Normally it's already extended. And we can say amazing window. And then we just set horizontal alignment to center, so that way it's always in the center. If you will put it in the 8 box and you have more buttons on the left side compared to the right side, it won't be perfectly centered. With this way, it's directly centered, and let's call this window title, and let's just remove the label. If you want to change this easily, you can also make it a unique name and change it through code whenever you like. In the 8 box, we will need a spacer first of all. Separator. I call it a spacer. I go into themes, styles, and I make this into a style box empty because else you have a line going on. We also need some buttons, so let's add some buttons. Let's make these texture buttons just in case. So add texture button. We will need one for the settings, one for the system, for the icon itself of the editor, and one of the project settings. I'll add the icons first, so I'll just take the top bar icons that I have in the GoZen project. So let's create a folder here. Assets, top bar icons, let's take these out. We don't need the rest, this is just for an example. Okay, let them import. Normally it goes quite quickly. You can get these icons if you go to the GitHub project of GoZen if you want to use the icons that I use. Okay, so 3 on this side. So we have our close button. We have our maximize button. We have our minimize button. Project settings. Oh, whoops. Button. Settings button. And then here, editor button. For the editor button, I put the texture, basically the icon of the editor itself. I'll just use the Godot icon for now. Also in 8 box, what I like to do is keep a separation of 7 pixels. Okay, and let's select these all because they will all need the same size. Let's extend this a little bit so it's easier. Keep aspect centered. Ignore aspect size. And now we need to go to the layout and we need to decide how big we want the icons. The top bar itself is 20 pixels. I want the icons to not touch the top or the bottom of that bar directly. So I go for a smaller size, the 18 pixels, which is the same size as the status bar. Actually, I think that's probably a little bit too small if you go in full screen. So also I think because of this one, the top bar actually changed in size. So it's 26 now. Let's just change the minimum size to 30. And let's put the icons on a size of 22 instead. Let's not include the spacer, so layout. Let's put it on 22. Well, this 30 and this 22. Okay. So we have our editor icon. Also something you can do if you don't want everything to touch the exact size, something I also do, content margins, left 7 and right 7. Okay, so the settings button, let's give it the icon. Let's open the icon, normal, whoop. Next up the project settings. Maybe make the top bar a little bit more dark so the buttons are easier to see. Okay, the minimize, maximize buttons. Minimize, maximize. There's a reason why we don't see them on screen now. That's probably because I forgot to actually make the spacer take up all the space. So let's go here, and voila. Now we have our buttons. If we start the project now, it looks a little bit better. The status bar is a little bit too bright, but that's a problem for later. So if we change it to a window, we still cannot move the thing. We also cannot close it with a button. So let's first enable those buttons. I won't go into the doing the projects and the settings button or the editor button itself, because that will really depend on program by program. And if you use Godot, you'll probably know how to make it do anything anyway. If you want the settings to open, you can just make everything appear inside of the content node which we made before, which is basically this one. Also, content nodes, there is a gap, and that is because the layout one has a separation value. We should put this specifically on 0, and then we won't have that issue. So we have an amazing window. Let's go to nodes. Let's go to the minimize, the pressed. Okay. This one as well. Let's also add this onto the code. Oopsie. And that was not what I was meant to do. Let's create a new script under top bar. Let's call it top bar. Let's remove these. Disconnect, pressed, top bar. Okay. Disconnect. Oh, oops. Disconnect, pressed. Okay. And then the close button. Okay, so, oh, oops. And now we'll need to make the code for this part. It's not very difficult, luckily. For the close button, we basically use get 3 and quit. And that's basically all. If you would start it now, press the close button. This should do something. It's not doing something now. Why? Okay, let's check this out. What are we doing wrong? If I want to press... Okay, handles. Handles should be not on pass, but on ignore. Okay, now this should work. Voila. Small mistake. Okay, so next up the minimize button. Not very difficult. We use get window.set mode mode minimized. The maximize button is a little bit different because or the window is already maximized or it's floating, so that's something we need to take into account when programming that part. It's also not much. So basically I like to use a match statement for this. So match, get window.mode if the window.mode, why is this not completing? Maximized pass window dot mode. Oh, it's windowed. So yeah, mode windowed and mode full screen. And we say pass. So if the mode is windowed, then we say get window dot set mode to mode full screen. And for here the exact same thing, but mode windowed. And this is basically all the code that we need. So now these buttons don't really work that well because I'm using a tiling window manager in Linux. Normally this should be fine. So these buttons work now, we can close, but we still cannot drag the window around. So that's the next part that we'll be working on. So let's close this because it works now. And let's implement the dragging functionality. So far we have done the handles, the resizing stuff, the buttons itself to close, open, minimize, whatever. And now we need to enable dragging. How do we enable the dragging? That's a good question. That took me some time. So let's click on the top bar, node on GUI input events or good old friends. And let's first see if everything works. So print events, just to know if actually working. Normally if you press these buttons, we should not see anything. But when we hover over the title bar and start clicking on it, normally it should give us some amount of data to work with. Okay, so if event is input mouse button and event dot button index is 1, we print, let's just add a number. Normally this should work, it's not working for some reason, and I think I know why. The reason why it does not work is because 8box by default has this on pass. We should put this on ignore. So now this should work. If you press here, nope, that's also not it. Ah yeah, of course, we also have the spacer to worry about. The spacer also has it on stop, so let's put this on ignore as well, because the spacer is also covering that area. And now we get our input. So now we know that this is working. So now we only need to make the window follow the position of the mouse. For that, we'll do the same thing as the resizing thing. We'll create a variable called moving false. So moving is event.is pressed. And yeah, it's almost exactly like the resizing. Except for that, we'll need one more variable, and that's var mouse start, to get the start position of the mouse itself. And this is a vector to I. Oops. Let's put it correctly. Vector to I. The vector to I is, normally vector 2 is a float. The vector to I is for integers. So if moving, if it's not moving, then the mouse start is get viewport dot get mouse position. Normally this will be enough. And then same thing like before, we add the process. Also, I think in handles I forgot to do this. We don't choose a delta value, and just to get no errors popping up, or like this one that's here. The parameter delta is never used. So let's put a line. I don't know the name, but same for here. We won't be able to, we won't need delta, I think. I think we need delta. No, probably not. No, probably fine. Okay, so if moving, because we only want the code to run when it's actually moving. Let's see if this works. 555. So I keep the mouse pressed, and like you see, the number of instances is going up. So that's working. And I said we won't be working with delta, but I will call this mouse delta just to make it give more sense. We will need a vector to I of the get viewport. Oops. Viewport dot get mouse position. And we do this minus mouse start. Then get viewport. No, get window dot position plus equals mouse delta. Or we could call this mouse now. Mouse now. And we do this minus. Okay, so this should also work normally. And now if you make this if you make the correct side window minimized, this should be able to move, and it does. Also, I noticed the status bar is bigger because the version text is also bigger. Let's quickly fix that. New label setting, and let's just make the font 10 pixels big, and that way the title bar and the status bar is the correct size. So now we have our window. We can minimize it, maximize it, we can move it around, we can resize it as well, and we can close it. For resizing, something that I did, like right now it's way too small. For GoZen, I put the minimum resize, like the minimum size of the window at 600. So let's create a new script, func ready. Okay, so get window dot set. I think it's minimum size. No, it's not. It's min size. Yes, min size. And we set this to a vector to I. And for GoZen, I just put this on 600, 600 because that's around the same size as the start menu. That way, when you open GoZen in the minimized version, it will never cover a part of the start menu. For editing videos in this kind of size will probably be kind of annoying. But yeah, we have our window. That's basically it. So it does not go smaller than this. Maybe put this one a little bit smaller. Okay. And yeah, we have our little window. Same style and same system like I have for GoZen. Of course, GoZen is a little bit further in the progress, so we have the start menu as well. If you want to follow the progress of GoZen, please click subscribe and follow the videos. This October I'm kind of busy, but the moment that October is over, I'll have way more time and be able to work a lot more on GoZen to actually make it working. But sneak peek, something that I've been working on is the savings menu. So right now we have icons for files and icons for folders. Like we have our little file explorer. I'm still working on it. This really does not look great for now, but everything is still a work in process. I still need a lot more time. But yeah, this was my video on how to make a custom window for GoZen. Well, Godot, in Godot. Making the name of my video editor very similar to the name of the editor I'm using makes things kind of confusing when talking, especially when I'm as tired as I am today. So yeah, thank you all for watching and I hope to see you in my next videos. Stay subscribed if you want to follow the progress on GoZen, or subscribe if you want to see more videos like this in which I explain how to do certain things inside of Godot. Thank you for watching and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye. Oh, I need to clean my lens now. Oh, I touched it by accident. One more time, I would like to thank my supporters on both Kohi and GitHub. If you want your name in this list, head over to the link in the description. Thank you very much for your support and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye bye. Thank you very much.